What if there was a creature similar to a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but it roamed ancient Asia? What if a ferocious, lethal cousin lurked in the shadows of what was now modern-day China, ready to strike? Stay tuned to learn more about a fearsome theropod that once dominated these ancient and hallowed lands. Approximately 70 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous, Asia was filled with a vast array of dinosaurs, many of which were similar to those in North America. There was even a partial twin for the Tyrannosaurus Rex, as these prehistoric lands had their very own Tyrannosaurus-type species. Today, we know this theropod to be Tarbosaurus. This ferocious thug was unearthed in the expanse of the Gobi Desert by a Soviet dig team, which discovered a large skull and vertebra. The skull was remarkably similar to that of a T-Rex, and therefore the Soviets believed they had found their very own Tyrannosaurus, which they dubbed Tyrannosaurus Batar, the latter portion meaning hero. At the same time, the discovery also led to the retrieval of 3 other theropods, all different in size, resulting in the creation of 2 new Gorgosaurus species and a separate brand new genus for the largest skeleton, which they named Tarbosaurus, meaning the alarming lizard. While the Soviet paleontologists were right in the fact that they had found a new genus, they had made some mistakes in their classification. A decade later, analysis would find that every theropod discovered during that expedition actually all belonged to just one genus and species. Therefore, the genus was simply named Tarbosaurus. The Tarbosaurus is still a type of Tyrannosaur. It's closely related to the Tyrannosaurus Rex and is considered a sister taxon, meaning they are each other's closest relatives within the Tyrannosauridae family. The sister group is known as the Tyrannosauridae and includes a third member, the zoochain Tyrannus, which was the smallest and oldest of the 3, residing, like the Tarbosaurus, within Asia. Because of their strong connection, it was once thought by some that the Tarbosaurus gave rise to the Tyrannosaurus Rex, with the hypothesis that some individuals successfully crossed the Bering Strait while it was connected. But is this true? We'll touch on that idea again later. Tarbosaurus possessed many features seen in its relatives, including an S-shaped neck, proportionally tiny hands, and fused parietal bones. Parietal bones are 2 flat, irregularly shaped bones located on the sides of the skull. They form part of the roof of the skull and contribute to its shape and structure. The Tarbosaurus shared similar body proportions and a nearly identical endocranial structure to Tyrannosaurus, with both also possessing similar skulls and teeth. However, Tyrannosaurus had a much wider skull and body, as well as having larger hands, proportionally, with Tarbosaurus actually possessing the smallest hands of any known Tyrannosaur relative to its body size. Tarbosaurus is the second largest Tyrannosaur of the 13 known genera. Naturally, to be the second largest, adult Tarbosaurs were extremely large, with the average adult measuring 10 meters or 33 feet long, while standing 3 meters or 9.8 feet tall at the hips. And thanks to its robust skeletal structure and ample muscles, the Tarbosaurus was also extraordinarily heavy, tipping the scales at over 5 tons, tying it in 13th place for the heaviest theropod ever, along with Sycomimus and Therizinosaurus. Just for reference, and believe it or not, a modern polar bear or bison can weigh up to 5 tons. Large specimens of Tarbosaurus could be even bigger than that, as one giant skull, which was 1.35 meters or 4.4 feet long, is thought to have belonged to an adult that reached 39 feet or 12 meters from nose to tail, making it just as long as the Tyrannosaurus macrensis, nearly identical to the T-Rex in length, though it was still lighter and shorter in height. Tarbosaurus was still the largest predator in Asia and was the dominant apex predator, with a wicked jaw and bite. Tarbosaurus possessed a giant, heavily built skull that was covered in several large muscles, as it had a large fenestra or opening that served as an attachment point for muscles. This gave Tarbosaurus its immensely powerful bite that's been estimated at 10,000 pounds per square inch, rendering it more forceful than any living animal today. Tarbosaurus also had a charming smile, with adults possessing between 58 and 64 giant teeth within their mouths that were all more serrated than the teeth of even the T-Rex. These lethal teeth, coupled with its power, let Tarbosaurus easily crush and tear through any victim's flesh and bones, removing huge amounts of meat with each bite, rapidly leading to catastrophic blood loss and shock. Naturally, such terrifying power and size all led the Tarbosaurus to being a mass murderer of the biggest prey available, with isotope analysis finding that it had a preference for hadrosaurs, ankylosaurs, and titanosaurs, some of which, like the Sahelanthropus and Nemegtosaurus, were bigger than even itself. This analysis has been backed by direct evidence as well, with all these prey species having been found with severe bite marks that match those of the Tarbosaurus. How big did another dinosaur have to be to escape being lunch for a Tarbosaurus? The answer is that size clearly did not matter to a hungry Tarbosaurus. Fossil evidence points to attacks on a giant ornithomimosaur, and this type of theropod weighed anywhere from 6 to over 7 tons. Numerous parts of the discovery clearly show that the body had been punctured and gouged with such ferociousness that the animal had been essentially disemboweled. The attack was so chaotic that when the specimen was first discovered, it remained a mystery for quite some time on why its remains were so scattered and damaged. And so it goes without question that Tarbosaurus was a giant slayer, with some even thinking that one of its unique traits was an adaptation purely designed for going after the biggest land animals ever, the Titanosaurs. Specifically, its skull, along with being robust and roped with muscles, was also extremely rigid, with its mandible in particular being much sturdier and more inflexible than what was seen in other tyrannosaurs. This rigidity is thought to have played a big role in taking down sauropods, as it helped the Tarbosaurus maintain a tight grip when biting down and created a unique interlocking mechanism only seen in the Tarbosaurus that further made escape impossible for sauropods. Tarbosaurus were also very fast for their size. Preliminary studies found the Tarbosaurus capable of max speeds of 25 miles per hour or 40 kilometers an hour, which is about as fast as you would drive through a city neighborhood. This was fast enough to catch sauropods and large hadrosaurs, as their mass meant that they were relatively slower. This Asian tyrannosaur also had a wide range of attuned senses that were helpful in the hunt. The Tarbosaurus had one powerful nose, which we know about thanks to a brain endocast that revealed a huge olfactory bulb and nerves, traits typically only seen in animals with a keen sense of smell. This attribute helped Tarbosaurus easily track down prey and pick up the scent of decomposing flesh. It's also been hypothesized that its pinpoint smelling lent itself in complex mating behaviors, because within its olfactory system there was a large Jacobson organ, an important organ in tetrapods that detect pheromones. Tarbosaurus could probably pick up on all kinds of pheromones with ease, thus helping an individual find a potential mate. And we know that this smelling superpower was a big part of Tarbosaurus's life, playing a larger role in hunting and socializing than even vision did, as the areas of its brain associated with eyesight were underdeveloped. The Tarbosaurus could literally smell you well before it could see you. But what about the Bering Strait? Could Tarbosaurus have crossed over to North America via a land bridge? Could Tarbosaurus have given rise to Tyrannosaurus? Due to modern research, this idea is now considered wrong, as ancestor Tyrannosaurs from North America are known to have evolved into the T-Rex, such as its dear long-lost uncle, the Daspletosaurus. We know also, thanks to a very recent study, that there was an older Tyrannosaurus species as well, the Macranthus, that predated the Tarbosaurus, casting more doubt on the idea of it being the Tyrant King's forefather. Unlike North American tyrannosaurs, the Asian ones had narrower skulls where the eyes were primarily facing sideways as opposed to straight forward, meaning the Tarbosaurus did not have binocular vision. However, its hearing capabilities were exceptional. Similar to its olfactory system, its auditory nerve was proportionally huge, suggesting a good ability to hone in on the sounds of prey. The presence of good hearing likely further means that its balance and coordination was above average, a key trait when tackling huge dinosaurs, and also meaning that battles involved a lot of tugging and thrashing because the Tarbosaurus was not prone to falling down a lot. For those scuffles, the Tarbosaurus had another little trick too: its scaly skin. We know what Tarbosaurus skin was like thanks to rare skin impressions, which showed that certain areas of the body were covered in scales, which added a degree of protection. So far, a footprint and thoracic fragment has confirmed that the feet and chest were scaly. It's not yet assured that the rest of the body bore such scales, though we do know from other Tyrannosauridae that scales were found in multiple areas throughout the entire body. In the Tarbosaurus' case, these scales varied in size, with bigger scales measuring 2 centimeters or 0.7 inches in width, which is about the same size as the dimensions of a dime. These scales did not overlap and would have helped to prevent superficial damage like scrapes and cuts, which could potentially turn into infections. This is perhaps best showcased by the lack of Tarbosaurus remains that bore infection-related damage, with the only known damaged Tarbosaurus bone coming from an isolated hand that was fractured during a struggle with prey, proving once more that this was not a scavenger, and rather a highly active predator that took the phrase Chinese takeout to a whole new level. Tarbosaurus remains have been found within the Gobi Desert and present-day eastern China. Of all its known habitats, the Nemec Formation is by far the best studied one, and is where Tarbosaurus was most concentrated. This formation is today a dry desert, but during the Tarbosaurus' heyday, it was in many ways an oasis, where the climate was warm and humid, and the lands were split and broken up by large rivers, shallow lakes, and mudflats, all of which supplied life to expansive marshes and conifer-dominated forests. Interestingly enough, there was also plenty of other Tyrannosauridae in this environment, such as the Bacaraton, Raptorex, and Aliorhomus. None of these theropods were a major threat to Tarbosaurus, with all of them being considerably smaller. Aliorhomus was the closest challenger at roughly 1 ton. Still, these other predators may have been a threat to younger and sicker Tarbosaurus, thus putting a squeeze on the apex predator species, which leads us to consider how Tarbosaurus could have finally gone extinct. as fossils are only known from the Maastrichtian age 70 million years ago. No one knows what exactly happened to this iconic theropod. The usual suspect is climate change, as this particular region did have some episodes of drought, which could have gotten more severe over the eons. And that's it. Congratulations for taking the time to learn about the Tarbosaurus. And now you know more about the Tyrannosaurus genus. From its aggressive style to its sharp teeth, Tarbosaurus makes for a dinosaur worth knowing. If you want to learn more about the many species present in ancient Asia, be sure to comment. If you enjoyed learning about this carnivorous monster, make sure to like and subscribe to Primalia for more exciting content. If you found this video to be share-worthy, please share it with a friend who loves ancient biology as much as we do. Stay curious.